Welcome one and all to the Cine Geeks podcast where movies, TV, and all things geek collide. I'm Roy, still joined by my lovely co-host Angela.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hey Angela.
Hello, Roy, and hello, Cinegeeks. For today's episode, we'll be talking about a movie that's been delayed. Its release has been delayed twice. Okay, it was supposed to release back in October 2023. Then, na-move to November. Tapos, ngayon, release na siya finally.
Finally.
March 1 in the USA, and here in the Philippines came out last February 28.
Yes, of course, we're talking about Dune Part 2, directed by Denis Villeneuve, screenplay by Villeneuve along with John Spates, based on the novel of the same name by Frank Herbert. Though this movie, of course, stars an ensemble cast featuring Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Josh Brolin, Austin Butler, Florence Pugh, Dave Bautista, Christopher Walken, Léa Seydoux, Stellan Skarsgård, Charlotte Rampling, and Javier Bardem.
Dami.
Grabe.
Super star-studded.
As in talaga. Di pa ako makaalala ng last na film, maliban sa part 1, na sobrang established lahat ng gamit nilang actor sa ensemble.
Yeah.
Grabe.
Talagang powerhouse cast.
Oo, as in. By the way, before anything else, we'd like to, give a shout out to our fellow Cine Geeks who have been listening to us and actively engaging with us, recently. Why did you get us started, Ange?
Yeah, we'd like to say hello and a big shout out to Kevin Paulo or KP, who's been eagerly waiting for this episode. And thank you pala dun sa heads up about Evia Cinema, yung IMAX doon, kasi it's being renovated and mukhang mapapadpad tayo down south soon.
Yes. Okay na daw yung IMAX theater. Just real quick, we're talking about this, yung phenomena na parang meron mga small squares doon sa screen ng IMAX nila na sobrang visible. And yung visibility niya mas heightened kasi laser yung projector doon.
So, medyo kita mo habang nanonood ka ng Avatar na mayroong mga square-square.
Kumikinang yung mga square. Anyway, next we want to give a shout out to Jory Lynn, one of our faithful likers on Instagram.
Hi, Jory
Hi, Jory Lynn.
Of course, we'd like to say hello to Doc Fred Hauson or Hawson. He's listening to us to and from work now.
Yes.
By the way, he's one of the respected and isa sa mga tanyag na mga movie reviewers. Fred Said blog.
Yes. Also, I think he writes for abscbn.com.
Yes.
Si Doc Fred.
So, hello po, Doc Fred, if you're listening.
Yes. And by the way, we also have Juan Miguel, also our follower on Instagram.
Yes.
Yes. Isa din siya sa nagsabi na excited siya to listen to what we thought about Dune Part 2. So, Juan Miguel, if you're listening, ito na. Malapit na nang magsimula yung review later on. Of course, next we have
the Iprapke Buddies. You know who you are?
Yes.
Yung mga naghihintay din ng Dune. And we'd love to know what you thought about it as well. Kasi sabay-sabay natin itong pinanood during the advanced screening.
Pwede natin ituloy ito offline.
Yes.
Yung ating discussion. Also, we'd like to give a special shout out to someone that we got to know during said premiere of Dune Part 2. Her name's Samantha.
AKA Segunda Katigbak.
Yes.
Yan.
And we just wanna say that we loved geeking out about Dune and the movie with you. Una pa lang nung nasa pila pa lang tayo.
Grabe, oo.
And then afterwards, nung nagtatry tayo mag-decompress lahat.
Sobrang giddy pa din tayo eh.
That's true.
Para tayong mga batang kinikilig eh.
Yes. Also, one last special shout out din pala to one of our original listeners, Alisa.
Yes.
Yes.
All the way from Cebu.
All the way from Cebu.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Alisa, if you're listening, hopefully you have seen Dune Part 2 and you can listen to the full episode na kasi medyo spoilery tayo ngayon.
Yeah. So, spoiler alert to everybody listening.
That's right.
But before we continue, we'd like to remind everyone who hasn't done so to follow our pod wherever you listen to podcasts like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube.
Also, set your players to automatically download our new episodes so you don't miss out on our fun Cine Geek episodes.
Please don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, and X, aka Twitter, so we can join in on the Cine Geeks conversation. Also, visit our website, www.cinegeekspod.com, for the latest in movies, movie and TV news and reviews.
Okay, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about Dune Part 2. Dune Part 2 continues the mythic journey of Paul Atreides as he unites with Chani and the Fremen while on a path of revenge against the conspirators who destroyed his family. Facing a choice between the love of his life and the fate of the known universe, Paul endeavors to prevent a terrible future only he can foresee. Okay, so sabi dun sa title, of course, Dune Part 2, implying na merong Part 1.
Yeah.
It's, of course, the sequel to the 2021 film, also by Denis Villeneuve, and basically everybody, cast and crew from the top down. Hindi pa natin nasisimulan tong podcast nung lumabas to 3 years ago or so. So just real quick, Ange, bago na para bang table setting natin before we go to the discussion of Part 2. What did you think of Dune Part 1? Real quick.
Real quick, naku, ang hirap naman neto. Challenge. Yeah, so Dune Part 1. Actually, I did not know anything coming in. But I'm aware this is a book, diba? And there was already a movie made about it starring Kyle MacLachlan.
Yes.
I always mention here, I don't really watch trailers before I watch the movie. Para fresh talaga yung lahat ng information na matitake in ko during the first viewing. So, ang masasabi ko sa first experience ko watching it was, well, ang pinaka-closest siguro na pwede kong ma-compare sa kanya was Star Wars. Pero Star Wars was very different. Mainly because ito talagang para siyang yung literal space opera. Meron lang, may families involved. So, the politics take center stage here. Hindi talaga yung
parang hero's journey.
hero's journey. Yes, kasama siya, pero hindi siya yung sentro eh.
Hindi, tama.
Yung first movie really took time in introducing all the pieces of the board.
Yes.
Hindi lang si Paul Atreides.
Tama.
As opposed to Star Wars na si Luke, kay Luke talaga nakatutok, 'di ba?
True.
So yeah, yun yung Dune Part 1. It's really getting to know all the pieces, all the characters involved,
Yes.
all the moving parts, and yung mores nung nung society na ginagalawan nitong mga taong to, nitong mga entities na to. Kasi there is also prophecy element. So, merong supernatural.
Tama.
So, hindi lang siya sci-fi. It's also
May religious element siya, ganun.
may religious element, meron ding society statement, ganon. And marami siyang sinasabi. And hindi pa talaga nag-propel yung story niya sa part 1. Parang nakilala pa lang talaga natin yung mga ano.
Tama.
How about you?
Ako naman real quick. Kasi yung first time na pinanood natin to, yun pa yung panahon na, MECQ pa lang, no? Yung one seat apart sa sinihan, tapos face mask, face shield.
Grabe, parang a lifetime ago.
Oo. Kaya yung memory ko about Dune Part 1, with that in mind, sobrang ang hazy niya, quite literally and parang metaphorically. Kaya nga sobrang ganda nung nagkaroon ng re-release nitong part 1 last February 7
Yeah.
in IMAX Theater. So parang nakakatawa kasi parang na-experience ko siya for the first time nung pinanood natin siya nung re-release, and sobrang nakaka-transport, sobrang transportative nung sine. In that, hindi siya tama kayong sa comparison mo about Star Wars. Hindi siya yung tipo ng scene na swashbuckling adventure. Hindi siya yung parang standard na movie that we've come to expect pag sinabing sci-fi. Yung meron tayong plucky na hero, mga bida, tapos may kalaban na kailangan talunin, tapos matatalo, ganun. Sobrang niyang place setting eh. Yun nga, it sets up the chessboard and tells you who the pieces are and where the pieces are placed.
Napaka-landscape nung pagkakakwento niya eh.
Oo, talaga. And it just brings you into this strange but very, very beautifully intriguing world of yung, una muna yung Caladan, dun sa homeworld ng
Atreides,
Atreides.
yeah.
And then eventually, nandun tayo sa Arrakis, doon na sa Dune, yung planet na yon,
Yung Caladan, yung water planet.
yung water planet.
Water
yung,
world,
yes. Yung distinction ng mga worlds na pinakita doon, sobrang, well, for the lack of a better term, parang may tactile element siya. Parang siyang nararamdaman mo tuwing nag-iiba yung setting eh. Hindi lang siya yung parang visual cue mo na katulad sa Star Wars na sa simula, sa spaceship tayo, tapos natatatuin tayo, tapos nasa Death Star tayo. Hindi, ito ay parang kahit ikaw pakiramdam mong lumipad ka mula sa Caladan papuntang Arrakis nung lumipat na sila eh.
Grounded yung kwento.
Yun din pa, oo. And along with that, yung visuals nung story na yung one thing that you can parang say na triumph nung Dune Part 1 and Part 2 to an extent is yung kanyang ability to, in terms of writing, na gawing streamlined or parang quote-unquote movie-friendly yung takbo ng kwento. Kasi although yung binabasa ko pa lang yung Dune, andun pa lang ako sa part 1 kasi ako personally, nagbabasa ako ng books na based on movies. Mas preferred ko na magbasa ng yung bang tipong yung imagination ko na meron na ng mga actors. So, mas madali siyang basahin yung parts hanggang part 1 para parang nanonood pa rin ako ng sine.
Parang you read it in their voices.
Exactly, oo. Tapos, ang daming mga side plot na tinanggal na. Ginawa ni Villeneuve tsaka ni Jon Spaihts na sobrang linis ng takbo ng kwento. Although, tama ka na hindi pa rin siya yung tapos na kwento.
Yeah.
Oo. Pero yun yung parang pitfall kasi nung part 1 eh. Parang nag-sacrifice siya ng one move to get 3 steps ahead dun sa next movie, which we're gonna talk about in a little bit. Pero yun yung parang mga quick thoughts ko about part 1. Anything to add sa'yo before we go on to 2?
Well, bukod dun sa you pointed out na 2021 was parang a lifetime ago. Kaya siguro people refer to this as a classic kasi parang ang tagal-tagal na niyang lumabas.
Well, that's true. I guess. May aspect na gano'n na parang, parang 3 years feels like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
God.
Well, one more thing that I realized just now, kasi 'di ba with how Dune Part 1 finished na talagang inobliterate yung Atreides. Parang ngayon ko lang na-realize na parang they're the water creatures na tinanggal sa water at nilagay sa disyerto para mamatay.
Yun. That's a
'Di ba?
That's a metaphor.
The
Yeah.
Atreides are like fish
Atreidae.
na out of water na talagang just left out there to dry out.
Tama.
So yun yung purpose nung Dune Part 1.
Yes.
To tell the story of the fall of Atreides.
Oo. Quick fire rating for you. Anong may bibigay mo sa part 1?
I'll give it a solid A-.
A-.
Dahil lang hindi pa kasi kompleto yung kwento.
Okay. Fair
Pero
enough.
cinematography-wise, grabe. Mesmerizing.
Wala talagang mano. Ako naman, solid A. Yun. Kasi, grabe yung, even ako personally, even though, yun nga, hindi siya kompletong part ng kwento ng buong Dune na may part 1, part 2, sabi pa nga daw hanggang part 5 pa to.
Wow. Wow.
Ganun yung strength ni Villeneuve dun sa pagkakagawa niya ng sine. Naparamdam niya, for most, na this part 1 was a complete movie. Even with its lack of narrative satisfaction. Dahil dun sa, primarily because of the strength of the writing, acting, Diyos ko Mariosep, feeling ko, mas acting Olympics yung una kaysa dito sa pangalawa. Although, may mga parts, we're gonna, we're gonna spoil them kung ano yung, mas madami yung competitors doon sa acting Olympics sa una. Yon.
Parang mas madami sa 2.
Mas madami dito.
Oo.
Okay, sige. Well, with that in mind, let's just go right ahead to that. What did you think of Dune Part 2?
Shucks, where do I begin? Well, marami naman nang nakapagsabi na ang pinaka nagre-remind sa kanila ni Dune Part 2 was Lord of the Rings.
That's
diba?
right. Yeah.
Kasi yung storytelling, yung narrative niya ng Part 1 and Part 2, para siyang yung Fellowship of the Ring tsaka Two Towers. Actually, meron pang ang isa parang Game of Thrones din Season 1, yung Part 1. Kasi pinakilala niya lang muna lahat ng characters and then sa kanya, yung talagang naging main meat ng conflict nila.
Actually, pwede mo pa sabihin na parang hanggang season 2 pa ng Game of Thrones eh.
So it involves a lot of factions, a lot of groups. Meron pang mga Bene Gesserit.
Yun.
Tapos meron pang mga new faces from the same family tree. So yung mga Harkonnen may bagong characters, yung
we're gonna get to them.
tapos yung mga Fremen, marami din. So ang dami talaga, and you feel that the world is very much lived in. Napaka-immersive niya. And I love na yung mga characters niya sobrang flawed. Walang kahit sinong may high ground, high moral ground. Lahat sila may issue, lahat sila may agenda. 'Di ba?
Kahit sabihin mo pa yung mga pinaka quote-unquote, may konting morally upright standing. May agenda din sila eh. Yung iba eh.
Even the religious sects, meron ding agenda.
Basta lalo sila, oo.
So, parang nagbibigay siya sa akin ng impression of Shakespearean or Greek tragedies.
Yes.
Ganon. Especially involving politics and family.
Yun.
Yun. Ikaw naman.
Ako, gusto ko yung sinabi mo tungkol dun sa yung napaka-gray ng lahat ng characters. Walang may moral high ground. Kahit sabihin natin na yung mga ibang character dito na sila yung pumapapil na parang moral compass of other characters. Now looking back at it, you can see that even they have their own agendas na sabihin natin hindi aligned dun sa gustong gawin ng mga bida or ng mga larger groups. Pero yun nga, it parang it complements the lived in element or aspect of this world na it feels, although everything feels and looks and sounds alien, these characters, these archetypes are enduring eh. And sinabi mo nga na yun nga, they remind you of elements of yung mga Shakespearean or Greek tragedies. Ito na, we're gonna dive into spoilers na. If you've read the books, you know that things are not gonna end well. Pero ang ganda na kahit hindi pa niya kinikwento, para dun sa mga hindi nagbasa ng libro, napaparamdam niya dun sa audience yung undercurrent of tragedy that is permeating everything.
Yes.
Kasi kung dun sa Dune Part 1, yung tragedy niya is very, ayoko sabing surface level, sobrang parang traditional, yes. Oo.
Na talagang merong winipe out na isang family na sobrang honorable and principled, kaya kailangan nilang mawala sa eksena.
Oo, yung ganon. Pero dito kasi sa 2, yung undercurrent of tragedy niya is more of, alam mo yung mga parang pinapabasa sa atin ng mga Greek tragedies in high school, parang yung mga Oedipus Rex, ganon. Not necessarily exactly that story.
Yes.
Pero you know na, well, primarily because sinasabi ng teacher natin, okay, this is a tragedy, ganyan. Pero kapag binabasa mo yung kwento niya, the story gives you hope na sana things end well for the protagonist. Pero you know na, and you see while reading the story that everything is parang silently conspiring against the hero or our protagonist and setting it up for them to fail.
Parang the pitfalls of human weakness.
Yun, oo.
Ganon.
Dito sa part 2, parang pinapakita na yung malalaking victories ni Paul Atreides.
Yes.
And if we're gonna take those victories at face value, then para siyang cheer-worthy moment siya. Para siyang, halimbawa, 2 towers nung na-repel nila yung orcs sa Helm's Deep. Parang ganon. Pero
it's just one battle.
Oo.
During a big war.
Oo, yung ganon. Pero kasi, yung victory nila sa dulo, nung na-wipe out ng mga Fremen yung Sardaukar, tsaka yung Emperor's Guard, lahat sila.
Yes.
Hindi kanya binibigyan ng satisfaction na parang, yes, nanalo sila Paul. Hindi eh. Alam mo pa rin na
There's always something coming. Parang may susunod pang laban na naman.
And something doesn't feel right about this victory. Yun. Kaya, ang ganda nung sinabi mong point about the Greek tragedy element. Yun. Balik naman ako ng mabilis lang konti dun sa yung Lord of the Rings na comparison na sinabi ko kanina. Yes, you said na parang obviously this is like Lord of the Rings in terms of yung story structure niya, na yung una is place setting, tapos sa dulo lang nung scenic merong parang bursts or may manakanakang burst ng action, pero more about knowing the characters.
Yes.
Yung first installment. Ito naman, para din siyang Two Towers yung part 2 na talagang maya't maya meron tayong laban, meron tayong bursts of conflict, meron tayong mga parang
collusions along the way.
Mamimit natin yung more chess pieces like you were alluding to, si Fade Rautha. Yan.
Tsaka yung isa pang Bene Gesserit, si Lea Seydoux. Magka-come into play yung plotline niya further along.
Yes.
'Di ba? Sa Dune Part 3.
Part 3 yung si
Maybe,
Margot Fenring, si Lea Seydoux. Yun, Tinake niya yung foundation na ginawa ng part 1 in terms of the characters and the world that it built. Hindi na niya ginawa yun eh. Sobrang ang confident niya doon sa work na ginawa niya in part 1 na it didn't need to stop anymore to do
recap.
I mean, this is not a knock on the movie that you saw a few weeks back, yung Demon Slayer. Pero kasi yun yung structure ng anime movies. Na if I'm not mistaken,
3/4 of the movie was a recap, and then parang the last quarter of the movie, yun yung dun sa bagong chapter or sa bagong arc.
Yun, so yung parang tipong yung Ashira training, tama ba? Yun na yung parang
the last quarter of the movie.
Yun. So ito, para siyang dinu away with niya yung simula na intro or parang getting the newbies back or caught up sa story.
Yung parang exposition dump.
Yun. Talagang boom, bigla na lang siyang, ano ba yung first scene natin dito? Pagkatapos nung
Actually,
kay Irulan.
It jumps off from the ending of the first movie. Yung nandun sila sa desert, tapos parang yun yung parang tinake in sila kasi natalo niya yung isa sa mga Fremen.
Si Jamis.
In a duel. Yun. So that was, yung first scene ng Dune Part 2 was immediately after that.
Yan. Tapos, ang pinakita na agad na yun, tinatakasan na nila yung mga Harkonnen troops na humahabol sa kanila. So talagang, I mean, some people might not like na it doesn't hold the audience's hand, especially yung mga taong manonood nito na hindi napapanood yung part 1. Ako kasi, I appreciate it personally when a movie respects an audience's intelligence enough to challenge them to parang, hey, this is part 2. You have to watch part 1 first. And then, yung reward na ibibigay niya, yung satisfaction of parang slotting you into the story right away, yun yung...
Very much worth it.
Oo, true. Ikaw, you said na kanina, habang bago tayo mag-record, yung talagang nag-stand out pa rin sa'yo was the sound design.
Yeah.
Yun.
Kasi, one of the things talaga for me personally na ma-feel ko yung isang movie is kapag yung sound takes me in that world. Parang it transports me there. Parang I have to feel like nasa loob ako ng mundo na yon, and that's what the sound design did for me. Okay. Alam mo yung talagang yung pag-ugong nung bass nung kapag lumalapit or lumalayo yung helicopter or kapag nagko-close in na sa kanila, yung rumbling na yon na mararamdaman mo na parang andun ka.
True.
Nakakakilabot kasi siya. So it's a very visceral thing that sound gives you.
Oo especially when you're watching this in IMAX.
Especially if it's a different world than ours.
Yun.
It has a very different set of physics.
Yun.
Tapos, nasa disyerto siya. Alam mo yung pakiramdam na sa tunog pa lang at saka sa cinematography, parang maiinitan ka din kapag nasa disyerto yung scene. Alam mo yung ganong psychological or mental effect nun sa katawan mo, physiologically. Napaka, niya it makes you feel things talaga. It's an immersive experience.
So, part pala nung by design pala nung premiere na
nakapatay yung aircon.
May na yung aircon sa IMAX sa
Kasi,
Mega Mall.
Para ma-feel mo na nasa disyerto ka din.
Thank you, SM.
Pero kasi,
for the experience.
Di ba nga, I'm no scientist ha. I'm no expert in this. Pero, di ba nga yung ASMR, it gives you physical reactions. Di ba? Ang sound is very powerful.
That's true.
So, yung sound design nitong movie na to gave me that. It added to the experience. Parang, in a way, nakakalimutan kong nakaupo ako sa loob ng cinema eh. Feeling ko nandun ako, nakasakay ako sa helicopter kasi umuugong din yung buong katawan ko. Ganon.
That's true. Yung visuals of the two films so far. We've talked about it online, offline, in detail with friends. Pero yun tama kayo, sobrang underrated element nung pagkakagawa nila nung tunog na umuugong that just, makes you feel na pag halimbawa yung andun ka sa ornithopter, na parang andun ka.
Yun ba yung tutubi helicopter?
Yung tutubi, yung parang helicopter na mukhang tutubi.
Oo.
Oo, yung mga ganun. At ito, lalo na yung, halimbawa, yung sandworm na lang.
Yun. Isa pa din yun.
Diba? Yung yes, visually, it stuns you. Especially yung part na yung tinuruan na, yung parang final exam na ni Paul sa pag-ride ng sandworm. One of my favorite parts of the film.
Yes.
Kasi sobrang nakakatuwa ni Bardem dito, ni Javier Bardem. We're gonna get to why we love him in this movie in a bit.
Yeah.
Pero yung sobrang laking element nung sound doon sa scene na yun kasi it's one thing for the visuals to discombobulate you as an audience member. Kasi parang nararamdaman mo parang pati yung sand umano sa mata mo.
Yun.
Pero yung tunog na yung nagbabrush against you in all directions yung buhangin. Kasabay ng visual na
yung swooshing sound na yun.
Ang sarap sa
parang feeling mo, parang kung saan-saan din humahagi sa'yo yung sand. It gets everywhere.
Exactly. Another galaxy far away.
Yeah.
Pero yes, it does make you feel like that. Especially and siguro it also adds to the catharsis that you feel. Hindi nga isang beses, ang daming parang sprinkled siya towards so many points in the movie. Yun, yung part na successful si Paul sumakay nung sandworm. Pag nadinig mo na at nakita mo nang nakaahon siya, parang pati ikaw makakahinga ka na ng malalim. Yung ganun eh.
May relief.
Oo. True.
Not only that, just to add to the sound design, kasi sobrang important part of the story din yung voice. The voice. Not the contest. Pero yung the voice, it's a power. Bene Gesserit?
Yung the voice, yes.
They use the voice to control people. Ganon. So, yung sound design din yung parang nag-a-add ng creepiness and yung parang powerful ability.
True.
Diba?
And din, also during yung scene na inintroduce si Fade Rauta sa atin, nung nasa Gady Prime sila, yung homeworld ng mga Harkonnen.
Ay, ang ganda nun.
Correct me if I'm wrong pero ang creepy nung world na yun, maliban dun sa fact na it's shot in black and white because of
Black sun.
Black sun. Oo. Kaya yung colors na nawawala kasi nagiging black and white yung buong world. Even that parang sobrang, oh my God, ang ganda ng...
Grabe, sobrang
visuals
gusto.
na yun.
Ang ganda, sobrang creative talaga ng world nito. Parang napaka-wondrous niya, alam mo yon, ito yung gusto ko, maisingit ko lang.
Sige.
Kaya gustong-gusto ko yung Star Trek. Kasi parang it lets you experience imaginary planets with very bizarre physics and nature. Parang it reminded me of Star Trek, yung na yon, yung homeworld ng mga Harkonnen. Na sobrang bizarre nung world nila talaga.
Napaka-wondrously bizarre nung worlds dito lahat. Oo. Pero yun, going back lang to Gady Prime, tama ba na naalala ko na medyo may konting element siya na parang warped yung sound? Alam mo yung tunog ng nadidinig mo kapag nagsiswimming ka? Yung meron kang pagkabingi na hindi.
Parang muffled?
Parang muffled yung ambient noise mo.
Parang underwater ka, ganon? Actually,
parang may ganun dun sa Gady Prime, di ba?
Kasi parang, actually pwede mo siyang i-relate dun sa pool na laging pinagsuswimmingan ni Stellan Skarsgård.
Yun, pwede din. Ganun.
Yung parang langis na,
langis na chocolate na hindi maintindihan.
Parang vinaigrette.
Parang... yeah! Nalala ko yung titimpla sa Italiano. Oh my God.
Yung focaccia bread. Yung sinasawsaw.
Magkain natin doon. Gagawa ko yung tinapay doon. I-shape ko kayo. Kay Harkonnen yun. Sulub kong gano'n.
Ano yan? Olive oil, tsaka parang
tsaka vinegar, tsaka na balsamic vinegar.
So,
cannot unsee. Okay, anyway. Go. Sige.
So, yon. At saka, di ba, yung parang fireworks nila na parang Rorschach.
Oo.
Ang galing nun. Sobrang grabe talaga. Sobrang amazed ako dun sa homeworld ng Harkonnen.
Tsaka kahit dun sa yung fireworks na yun, di ba yung putok niya ba? Fireworks niya, ganun dapat. Sa kanila parang, baliktad Parang implosion yung tunog niya.
Ang ganda
Parang,
talaga. Grabe, ang galing.
Ganun siya.
Ang galing ng imagination ni Frank Herbert. And ang galing ng pagkakagawa nung ang galing nung DOP. Ang galing, ang ganda talaga. That was so stunning.
Oh, and I'm looking at the list of the sound department on IMDb ng Dune Part 2. I mean, I want to credit them all by name pero medyo tatagal yung podcast natin. So if you want to, quote-unquote pay tribute to them, their names are on IMDb. There's a very long list pero all of them did a stellar job with this film talaga. Hindi pa nga tayo nakakadating dun sa parang quote-unquote meat nitong usapan natin which is the acting.
Yeah.
Oh my God, ibang klase si Timothée Chalamet dito.
Oo. Grabe.
If you thought na he's just this kid na will only be relegated to the parang, hindi man teeny bopper kasi hindi siya teeny bopper
Siguro parang Willy Wonka roles, gano'n.
Or parang mga YA. Yun.
Ang bilis niyang na-outgrow yun.
Oh my God. As in, dito, you will definitely feel it, yung shift niya in how he acts in this film.
So great and so young.
Ang galing. Kasi yung una, parang sobrang ganda na yung pagkaka-portray niya yung parang ginamit niya ng konti yung buong Paul Atreides sa part 1 na optimistic siyang young adult. Talagang parang, for the lack of a better term, daddy's boy. Gustong-gusto niyang i-make proud yung buong House Atreides. Sobrang niyang plucky, upstart. Yun nga, optimistic. Pero dito, as the story goes along, as he spends more time with the Fremen, and then eventually as he loses his own battle against yung kanyang prophecy na nakikita niya, nung moment na quote-unquote natalo siya nung sarili niya at nag-give in siya dun sa pagiging lisan al-gaib niya or yung messianic figure ng Fremen. It's a very chilling moment. That whole scene nung talagang tinake charge niya na, yes, I am your Messiah. Hindi nga bow down to me. More like na parang fight with me or fight for me.
Kasi
Ang galing niya. Grabe.
hindi niya din kasi, pinakita din naman na medyo reluctant siya sa umpisa.
Well, yun yung palang first half or so.
Nagsa-struggle din siya dun sa ganon.
True.
Para siyang it reminded me of Attack on Titan.
Yes!
Yung The Burden of Prophecy.
Yun.
'Di ba?
Eren.
Si Ere.
Ayun.
Very Eren yung kanyang yung foresight niya
True.
about all the things that will happen, all the deaths that he will
cause.
will cause.
Yes.
With one decision. Itong parang fork in the road niya. To stay in
the
north or to go south. So literal na he went south. Diba?
Oo, tama. Oo.
Pero ayun nga. So parehas siya nung struggle ni Eren about it. Kasi it's all about choosing the one you love, yung family mo or yung loved one mo. Sa case ni Eren, si Mikasa. Tapos choosing his destiny. Siya yung siya yung magiging lisan al-gaib, pero he will cause a lot of deaths. Pero it's written, parang ganon. Parang predestination or free will.
Yan. Ano siya? Man versus destiny.
Yun na naman. So, pero yun din yung isa pang aspect doon. Pinlano ng Bene Gesserit to lahat
Yun na nga nakakatawa yung destiny hindi pa siya parang artificial destiny pa siya
Oo.
Hindi tapos ito pa nakakatawa doon. Now that you point the Bene Gesserit kasi may na siya, alluded na siya dun sa una. Parang pero hindi pa siya finlesh out fully
until
this movie na talagang verbalize siya na we've been crossing bloodlines for centuries para lumabas yung Kwisatz Haderach or yung lalaki na
the one.
Yung lalaki na Bene Gesserit. Yon.
Yung Neo nila. Ang problema, ito yung parang kung naintindihan ko na ng tama. Ang kaya nagalit si Reverend Mother Helen, si Charlotte Rampling, kasi hindi pa approved yung pagdating ng lalaki na si Paul. Yon. Pinili ni Jessica
na magkaroon ng anak na lalaki dahil love niya si Leto Atreides. Yun,
Yes,
si
yes.
Oscar Isaac sa part 1.
Because he wanted a male heir
Oo.
for the Atreides
For the Atreides bloodline.
Kasi for Ascension.
For Ascension. Parang pinaasawa si Jessica. Hindi pa pinaasawa. Ginawang concubine ni Leto, si Jessica, para magkaroon pa rin ng marami pang babaeng anak. Para marami pa yung Bene Gesserit. Hindi pa dapat ngayon magkakaroon ng Kwisatz Haderach. Pero, dahil sinuway ni Jessica yung utos ni Reverend Mother Helen na nagkaroon ng lalaki, minaniobra nila na pinapunta nila ng Arrakis yung Atreides family para maubos yung si Jessica, si Leto, si Paul, para yung plano pa rin nila yung matuloy. Ngayon, ang hindi nila na foresee, nag-survive si Paul at si Jessica. Now, ang pinakagusto kong part dito is yung pag-ascend ni Jessica, ni Rebecca Ferguson, into becoming an alternate Reverend Mother of her own.
She built her own church.
Yun, no?
'Di ba? I love that.
Nakakatuwa yun.
So feminist.
So gusto ko yung, grabe yung ano niya, yung, lalo na sa dulo, nung nag-duel na si Feyd-Rautha at saka si Paul.
Tapos nag-ano na sila.
Tapos
Lahat sila
Ando dun.
confrontation na.
Oo.
Kumbaga, it's final showdown na.
Tapos nagtitigan lang si Helen at saka si Jessica na parang, of all, ano sabi niya na, ni Helen nun? Parang, of all people, you should know that. Reverend Mother. Parang ano yan. Super hot fire.
Nagkaroon ng flip of power.
Oo.
Doon sa one fateful moment na yun, doon sa isang showdown na yun.
Yun. And isa pang sobrang acting MVP among many MVPs dito. Of course, we said na kanina si Javier Bardem
Oo.
as Stilgar.
Alam mo, actually, people may take it at face value na siya yung levity ng movie. Na parang idol na idol niya si Paul. So parang it's a little bit funny. Na yung mentor becomes the fan. Parang ganon.
True.
Pero actually, this is a statement on religion and fanaticism.
Yes.
It's a very apt observation on that aspect in this movie. Yung sociological statement niya na naman na it's a thin line between faith and fanaticism.
True.
Yung obsession nila dun sa prophecy. 'Di ba? Parang pushes si Stilgar to abandon all logic.
Naalala ko yung part na yung tag dito, yung
parang may pagka-Life of Brian siya, 'di ba? Parang Monty Python. Life of Brian, if you haven't watched that, yan, maganda rin yung parang parody on the philosophy of religion.
Yung, I am not the Messiah. He is the Messiah.
But if he is the Messiah, of course he won't admit that. That which makes him even more deserving to be called Lisan Nalgaib.
Yung yung part na yung after nung ceremony to make Jessica the new Reverend Mother ng mga Fremen. Di siya parang
yung ba yung nag-drink siya ng poison?
Nag-drink siya ng water of life. Yung parang inner, yung dugo ng baby sandworm ba yun? Tapos, di nilabas yung body ni Jessica dun sa kung nasa nag-aantay yung mga ibang Fremen. And then, inaantay nila na ma-revive siya. Tapos, itong yung mga non-believers, sinasabi nila, hindi, wala na, patay na siya. Tapos, sabi ni Paul na, ang tawag nito, she's fine. Yung ganyan. Tapos, ito namang sila Stilgar, parang, yes, that's what Lisan Nalgaib would say. Tapos, parang may isang sobrang humorous na editing trick na ginawa sila dito eh.
Alin yun?
Yung, nakalimutan ko yung exact moment. Pero gusto ko yung parang, nag-uusap na ata si Paul at saka si Chani. Na sasabi niya na parang something to the effect na, I'm not Lisan Nalgaib. I'm not something like that. Tapos parang siyang, sabi bigla ni Stilgar, bigla nag-cut sa kanya, biglang sabi, he's too humble.
So he must be
Lisan Nalgaib.
Alam mo yung frustration ni Paul, ramdam na ramdam ko, parang si Life of Brian. Parang, please believe me, I really am not Lisan Nalgaib. Parang kahit anong sabihin niya, no logic can convince a fanatic na hindi totoo yung pinapaniwalaan niya. Parang, yung mga taong nakakakita ng pattern dahil gusto nilang makakita ng pattern.
True.
Parang ganon. So yeah, ang ganda nung depiction nun in the character of Stilgar. Beautifully portrayed by Javier Bardem.
Super. At saka yung lalo na yung pagdating nun sa dulong part, ang costumes kasi ng Fremen is dapat papatayin mo yung leader to ascend to their spot. Pero si Paul, dahil nakainom na siya in later part of the movie, nakainom na rin siya ng water of life or yung blood ng sandworm, na-amplify na yung kanyang time and space omnipotent powers. Tapos, grabe yung sinasabi mo kanina na parang yung thin line between faith and fanaticism. Talagang inobliterate ni Paul dun sa part na yun
He redefined it.
Yung sinabi niya yung lahat ng mga innermost prayers ng mga tao, kahit yung mga parang high priest, napaluhod na lang sa kanya
Ganun siya ka-powerful
Ganun
talaga.
siya ka-powerful. Tapos, ganda nung inversion nung sa simula na parang, funny, parang levity yung fanaticism ni Stilgar. And then at that point,
later on, it just became
nung inabuso na ni Paul,
pathetic,
naging,
no?
Naging parang sad and pathetic na siya na parang, asan yung Stilgar kanina na
I give you the moisture of my body.
Anyway, ano pa ba yung doon? Of course, Austin Butler.
Yeah.
My God. I mean,
from Elvis to this.
Oo.
No eyebrow, no hair.
No hair. Yun yung biggest na parang concern ng lahat ng tao.
Yung alopecia niya?
Hindi naman yun. after Elvis na, paano niya masished yung kanyang Elvisism. Kasi itong si Kuya, masyado naman yung method yung kanyang pagiging Elvis na wala na yung tapos na yung sine, method pa rin siya. Sobra naman. Pero I would like to think na nakatulong sa kanya tong role na to. Kasi ito yung parang super anti-Elvis.
Yeah.
Kasi yun na nga, sobrang, wala nga siyang buhok, wala siyang kilay, lahat. Tapos po siya may alopecia na, nakalbo.
Pero, medyo nakulangan ako sa nung parang may promise na, he's a psycho. Parang I was expecting something to the effect of parang yung performance ni Nicholas Hoult sa Mad Max Fury Road. Parang ganun siya ka-unhinged.
Yes.
Parang
I
yun
agree.
yung parang in my mind, dahil sa itsura niya, yung parang demeanor niya. Parang, pero kasi he was very much in control. 'Di ba? Parang mas, pa nga siya voice of reason siya sa mga Harkonnen Tapos meron pa siyang high moral sense, 'di ba?
Yes.
So parang
True.
hindi naman yata siya psychotic. Katulad ng sabi ni Florence Pugh.
I would like to think na sociopath siya. More
calculating.
Than psychopathic. Oo, calculating siya. Kasi I would like to think na hindi naman tanga si Vladimir Harkonnen para gawin siyang governor ng Arrakis itong si Feyd Rautha. Kasi ito din, minor spoiler, spoiler. Eventually, nananalo yung mga Fremen against the Harkonnen under yung kay Dave Bautista, si Raban. So, eventually, napuno na si Vlad. Pinalitan niya si Raban with Feyd Rautha. And nung siya yun naman yung pumalit doon napakita na okay, mas siya yung competent na Harkonnen.
Parang ang mas mas unstable pa si Batista kaysa sa kanya.
True. Mas si Batista yung psychopath. Kaysa kay Feyd.
Si Feyd sociopath.
Sociopath siya. Siguro feeling ko kaya siya kasi pagkata sinabi ni Florence Pugh, si Princess Irulan, na psychopath siya, nag-cut siya directly doon sa introduction ni Feyd. Na yung bigla na lang niyang pinag-chop-chop yung mga handmaiden niya. I feel that scene was supposed to go on for a bit more, a bit longer, and a bit more bloodier. Para lang ma-drive home, cinematically speaking, yung psychopathy niya. Oo.
Kasi they promised Kasi
True.
pinag-uusapan nila si Feyd Rautha without showing him yet.
That's true. And even then, meron pa siya sanang other chance, which was yung gladiator fight. Tama ka doon na medyo nakulangan din ako ng konti ng brutality niya. Pero I guess this is the pitfall of, making a PG-13 film. Also, props have to go to Zendaya, na in my opinion was underutilized nung first film. Pero dito sobrang front and center siya. And equals siya ni Paul Atreides, si Chani. Sobrang ang ganda nga nung dynamic nila. I thought that the first part of the film would be parang, hindi man eye roll, pero para sa akin, "Ay, come on, let's get to the action na." Pero it ended up na I was very much invested doon sa love story nilang dalawa.
Oo. Heartbreaking yun.
Making it all the more heartbreaking, yes.
We needed that slow part na dinedevelop lang yung relationship nila. Kasi naramdaman ko na ito na yung parang peak ng magiging relationship nila. This is the happiest point in this movie.
True.
Kasi it's gonna go down from here.
Yes.
Especially kapag in-embrace na niya yung destiny niya, di ba? Naging believable naman yung nila yung love story nila.
Yes.
Hindi siya fake, hindi siya artificial, hindi siya rushed. May pinagsamahan talaga.
Oo.
And in a 3-hour film, tapos ang dami-daming mga set piece, tapos ang dami-daming complex web of plot lines na i-flesh out yung love story nila. It's very important kasi feeling ko dito babalik, magsa-circle back dito yung kwento. Dun sa time nila together before everything else, before the war.
Oh, and lalo na since Dune Part 3 most probably will focus on yung Holy War ni Muad'Dib or ni Paul. Feeling ko na bago siya talaga fully succumb to his parang darkness, Chani will be there pa rin to try to get him back.
Ayun nga, if you've seen Attack on Titan,
Yun, din
her
pa,
role is very much like Mikasa.
Parang si Mikasa. Yes, true. Very much so. Actually, nakakatawa nga na yung binibring up mo yung comparison to Attack on Titan. Do you think na yung writer or creator nun was inspired by Dune?
Si Isayama?
Si Isayama, would you say na he was?
Maybe.
Kasi,
I mean, Dune by Frank Herbert was very influential.
Oo, true.
Diba?
Oo. Pero sabihin ko na parang yung broad strokes ng story na meron tayong parang Dune Part 1 doon sa Attack on Titan, first 2 or 3 seasons, I guess, na we cheered on Eren as the hero. The same way
reluctant hero
at that pa. And the same way na we cheered on Paul, all of Part 1, some parts of Part 2.
Tapos they were given an unfathomable amount of power.
Yon.
And destiny. Then the burden of that.
Oo. Napagkatapos na parang naging emo sad boy na si Eren. And I would like to think na dito sa Part 3, mas magiging brooding emo sad boy na si the anti-Willy Wonka. Si Chalamet.
How can he go from Willy Wonka to this?
Yun, gabi yung yung versatility niya as an actor. Ni Chalamet. Galing talaga. Kung hindi lang sana incomplete pa rin yung kwento ng 2, as the Oscars are wont to do, na hindi sila recognize ng gawa na hindi pa tapos. I mean, you could make a case na isa sa mga pwedeng i-nominate yung acting ni Timothy dito for next year's Oscars. May laban. Oo.
Grabe yung shift niya from being a very soft-spoken desert mouse.
Yeah. From being Muad'Dib. From being a Muad'Dib. Yes.
A desert mouse, di ba? Parang napaka-feeble, napaka-quiet and maliit. Pero you will underestimate him. Kasi grabe yung command niya when he decides to,
become lisanal guy. Ibang klase.
Grabe.
Sino pa ba ang pwedeng nating i-commend na nag-stand out acting-wise? Of course, Rebecca Ferguson as Jessica.
Actually, yun nga about Rebecca Ferguson and Zendaya, and to some extent, the unborn sister of Paul Atreides. Spoilers.
Do we say who na ba?
Wag muna. Pero,
wag muna. Sige.
Pero kasi sinabi naman na dun sa part 1 na buntis si Jessica.
In a podcast of spoilers, may itatago ko pa rin kaming isa. Sige, go. Okay.
Ayun nga, I love that women are at the forefront of the story. They hold power in this world. If not the most powerful because of the Bene Gesserit.
That's true.
Pero meron din namang parang counterpart yon, si Zendaya. Kasi even she's a soldier, 'di ba? Pero kahit na soldier siya, hindi naman siya blindly nagfa-follow ng command, lalo na when it goes against her principles. Ano yung sabi niya?
Fedaykin. Yun yung nila, yung parang tawag sa mga Fremen soldiers.
Parang I'm not loyal to one person, I'm loyal to the desert.
Yun.
Yun yung prinsipyo niya. And I admire that. And they're gonna need that kapag ka medyo naging unhinged na talaga si Paul Atreides sa...
Sa part 3. Speaking of cast, we've pointed out the ones na talagang we absolutely were mesmerized by acting-wise. I just wanna point out na medyo nakakatawa lang nga na sobrang stacked nung cast nung scene na to. Pero yung mga iba sa kanila parang wala pang 5 minuto on screen.
Like?
Katulad si Christopher Walken as the Emperor. As in talagang sobrang Paul Muad'Dib. Ito, yun din pa, hindi ko ma-shake off yung cowbell sa utak ko tuwing nakikita ko siya.
I could use more cowbell.
Parang siya may sinabi siyang gano'n na parang, hindi, parang siyang yung linya ni Willem Dafoe sa Poor Things na parang, I'm something of a, na parang, I know, sabi niya, I'm something of a romantic.
I'm something of a romantic myself sa Poor Things.
Sa Poor Things, tapos dito naman sa part 2, alam ko may sinabi siya nung ano doon na sila sa Arrakis na parang sinabihan ata niya yung Sardaukar niya na parang, I could use more, parang sabi niya parang, I could use more soldiers, parang ganun or something. Pero pag nadinig mo na si Christopher Walken, sabi na, I could use more
cowbell.
Doon na pupunta eh. Pero yun na nga.
That's just our geek brains.
True.
Nag-short circuit lang.
It's just sad na siguro entranced by the scope and the ambition of the project na even if they knew na wala pang 5 minuto in a near 3-hour film yung tatagal nila, pumayag sila mag-star. Pero yun nga, I find it just funny na yun nga, si Christopher Walken, si Lea Seydoux, and this unnamed other star na we're not going to reveal for now. Yun nga, essentially mga glorified cameo lang sila.
Well, nagtataka ka pa, dun nga sa Dune Part 1, si Zendaya parang laging nagko-commercial.
Pero kasi, kay Zendaya, ano siya, peppered throughout the film, informing Paul's actions. So, she is very much part of the story. In my opinion,
Pero ang gaang ng trabaho niya, walang speaking part sa part 1. Dun sa last
Zendaya.
part lang.
Yun. Yung last part na lang, nung naka-stay suit na siya. Ito ang ano naman, yung nakaupo lang naman ngayon, si Christopher Walken.
I think kaya din ang daming disappointed dun sa part 1 kasi they sold the movie on Zendaya din. Tapos biglang puro panaginip lang si Zendaya. Parang Madam Web.
Shout out
to Leo. And to Mark of Maganda Ba Movie.
Yes, yung mga talagang sobrang Madam Web fans dyan. Joke lang. Well, let's focus naman on the work, the craft behind the camera. Kasi no matter how stacked your cast is, no matter how good the writing is, kung walang talab yung director mo, crew mo, etc. Wala pa rin yan. And again, we are treated to the wonder of Denis Villeneuve's work.
Yes.
Ibang klase talaga siyang director.
Yes.
I think I remember saying something to you after we watched this na Denis Villeneuve is Christopher Nolan with more heart.
Yeah.
Yan. Na kung kay Nolan, puro mga stoic, cerebral, na mga protagonists yung nasa scene niya. Dito naman kay Villeneuve, andun pa rin yung sense of scale and epicness. That's a word.
Epicity.
Kahit
Epication?
Kahit dun sa mga smaller scale films niya. Like Nolan na yung mga The Prestige, ganon. Pero ang difference naman sa kanya dito is yung mga protagonists niya are wounded, flawed people that aren't afraid to be human.
Yes.
Yan.
Ano pa bang ibang Villeneuve?
Yung Arrival, yon. Although, well, sabihin natin na parang mga adapted work na usually yung mga ginagawa niya lately. Pero iba pa rin yung magiging interpretation ng director eh.
Oo. It very much still informs how he would show these characters on screen.
Exactly,
Iba naman yung nasa book eh.
Sa book, yes.
And we've heard it from book readers din ng Dune na iba yung pagkakasulat ng mga characters dito kumpara sa Dune. If anything, in-improve on pa ni Villeneuve and Spates.
Yes.
Yung yung characterization nila. And mas informed yung actions nila.
Like, another of Villeneuve's protagonists, yung si Kay ba yun? Sa Blade Runner 2049, si Ryan Gosling.
Yes.
Yun. feeling ko na kung si Nolan ang gumawa nung 2049, sobrang stoic all throughout ni Ryan Gosling.
Cold and calculating.
Cold and calculating. And it's gonna work. The story is still gonna work. Oo.
Yeah.
Pero dahil nasa kamay siya ni Villeneuve, mas nakita mong may pain, merong humanity. Although, I mean fan theory lang naman na replicant din siya, yung si Kay. Pero,
Di pa ba siya,
hindi pa proven ba yun? Na replicant din siya?
parang inano na yun eh. Doon sa dulo, di ba?
Implied. Di ba, ang sinabi, ang akala nga natin siya yung anak ni Harrison Ford.
Oo.
Tapos bigla may switch out, may fake
Oo,
out
parang
na.
meron palang parang safe house, no?
May mas, na-meet na pala natin before pa. Yung anak talaga ni Harrison Ford na replicant human. Pero yung, even then he chose to portray the robot as a very human entity.
With human emotions.
With human emotions.
Siguro yun yung ibig mong sabihin, parang with Denis Villeneuve's characters, parang they always wear their heart on their sleeves.
Yes, exactly. Yun. True.
Whereas, Christopher Nolan's protagonists, mas more parang cold, distant, and mas nakikimkim.
Oo.
Although the pain is still there, pero parang mas meron pang parang psychological aspect dun sa nila.
Dun sa pain.
Sa portrayal ng
yan.
nila, character.
True. Well, kanina pa natin siya pinag-uusapan. We'll go back to him now. What did you think of Greg Fraser's work here compared to the first one as director of photography?
Grabe. Parang, alam mo, mayat-maya, hindi ko mabilang yung moments na napapatigil ako to just gasp at the sight of what I'm seeing on screen. Sobrang parang napapatigil talaga ako, and say it out loud ha, hindi ako pala salita sa sinehan. Pero talagang napapasambit talaga ako na, wow, ang ganda. Wow, ang ganda talaga.
Oo.
Wow. Wala akong ibang descriptor.
Naalala ko yung scene na lumabas doon sa sandstorm, yung tatlong sandworm. Nung kinakalaban na nila yung mga Sardaukar.
Actually, hindi ko nga, parang lahat Lahat maganda.
Kahit din yung yung pagkaka-frame niya, yung pagkaka-compose niya ng shot. Kasi pwede mong maraming mga ways na nagde-develop ng scale yung mga director Like for example, let's say sa Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson uses sweeping shots. Kung gusto niya ipakita yung dami ng crowd, ng yung mga army, papadaan niya yung camera sa ibabaw ng army na parang drone shot
Parang panorama, gano'n.
Oo, parang panorama. Dito yung na-establish ni Fraser yung sense of scale ng army ng Fremen sa dulo. Nung sinigaw na ni Paul yung Long Live the Fighters. Ang ganda ng composition niya na parang merong 1,000,000 Fremen sa harap niya. Tapos yung scale ni Paul na ang liit lang na ganun. Tapos yung tinaas niya yung sword niya, yung blade niya.
Oo.
Tapos lahat sila biglang taas din silang ganun din sabay-sabay. Yung ganung napaparamdam niya sa'yo yung both the grand scale of things juxtaposed with the intimacy of yung forefront or yung foreground nung scene na yun Kasi kitang-kita mo yung ang dami nakasunod pero in full focus pa rin si Paul
It doesn't lose sight of the one figure that they all follow.
Yes, that's true.
So parang this is not just to set up the next action piece.
Oo.
Parang very much still point the director is trying to make.
Yun.
'Di ba?
Kaya ang ganda ng collaboration nilang dalawa kasi yun na nga Villeneuve imbibes his stories, however cold and distant they may be, with some level of heart. Tapos pinarisan mo pa siya ng DP katulad ni Fraser na kayang-kaya niyang mag-present nung epic scale along with yung intimacy of the subject on the foreground. Kasi hindi lang ito yung kanyang best work in my opinion. He did Rogue One. Oh my God. He did yung Batman ni Pattinson. And he did The Creator.
Grabe. Puro mga emotional epic scale na mga
yung
movies about human nature.
Yung nare-retain niya yung wonder with his gaze as the camera. Kasi ito especially dun sa part nung final exam quote unquote ni Paul nung pagsakay nung sandworm. pwede mong ipakita na sobrang static shot lang ng disyerto eh. Pero sa kanya, kinakat to cut niya from a big shot, tapos ipapalit niya bigla doon kay Paul na talagang sobrang...
Yung splashing yung sand.
Oo. Tapos ibabalik niya bigla doon sa malaki. Seeing yung effect nung splashing ni Paul on the sand doon sa maliit na part na yon. So, hindi pa rin nga nawawala. Tama kayo sabi mo, hindi nawawala yung focus doon sa subject of whatever we're looking at. And then, babalik doon sa malaki kasi yung next subject na natin is the sandworm itself. Tapos pati yun, na pag-mix niya na okay, meron tayo dito Paul Atreides na sobrang liit and then this sandworm na sobrang gigantic. Pero...
yung contrast nun.
Oo, pero yung contrast niya doesn't feel jarring. If anything, pa nga sobrang parang they're meant to be together in that scene. Yung contrasting element na may sobrang yung desert mouse and then the sandworm.
Parang... ang ganda nung metaphor lagi ng mga shots niya. Parang it's not just to stun you with its beauty, but it says something. It adds to the story. It adds to the characterization. Parang nagbibigyan niya palalo ng layer yung character ni Paul or whoever is on screen.
True.
I love nga na nung time na namimili na si Paul about what to do next. Sila ni Chani, nag-uusap sila dun sa desert, nakaupo sila. Tapos, ang backdrop nila was the sunset. So, parang, it symbolizes parang the end of their happy times, parang ganon. The end of their love affair na it's gonna go down from here.
Diba? Yung
Tapos na to, parang everything is gonna change after this.
Yun, yung ganon. Ang ganda ng example na sinabi mo, kalimutan ko na nga yun eh, yung ganong, the intimacy again, I'm gonna keep on saying this again and again, pero he goes back to painting a picture of intimacy against grand scale. Yun yung galing ni Greg Fraser. Ito lang, masabi ko lang na mabilisan na gusto ko sana sabihin sa'yo nung na pinapanood natin pero takot ako baka sipahin ako ulit nung nasa likod ko, sing ingay ko na. Pero
hindi naman tayo maingay.
Sorry po, dun sa, if you're listening, I apologize if I was noisy. Anyway, gusto ko sana i-point out sa'yo nung nanonood tayo, yung mas lalong na-accentuate yung pagiging parang H.R. Geiger. I don't know if you're familiar with him. Yung parang H.R. Geiger-esque quality ng technology sa world nung Dune. For those of you who aren't aware, si H.R. Geiger, siya yung painter slash concept artist na gumawa nung parang visuals ng Alien.
Oh, practical effects?
Not necessarily. Yung parang, kung ano yung design, language niya ba?
Okay.
Yung sobrang alien na technology, futuristic, pero curves, kurbada yung niya. Yung parang unnatural na kurbada.
Okay.
At siya yung nag-design ng alien mismo, yung ganon. Kaya yung part na merong hot air balloon na dinala yung parang pang-scour ng desert para sa mga Fremen.
Yung para sa spice?
Yung para sa mga, hindi nga spice na, di ba? Hindi na nga sila nagano ng spice eh. Hinahanap na lang nila yung mga Fremen ngayon eh. Yung may gumagano na parang bibig.
Parang parang sa farm yung
parang yung taga-harvest ng wheat, parang ganon. Oo, yung ganon. Yung kanyang accents nung machine. Yun. Meron siyang brutalistic element pero mas parang konting nagpasok sila ng H.R. Geiger-isms
na curves.
Dito, na yung mga kurbada na parang ang jarring tignan katabi ng brutalist. Yung mga talagang bloke-bloke. Pero para siyang yung nakukuha mo yung feeling pag yung pinapanood mo yung Alien dati.
Napaka-otherworldly.
Yun. Oo, napaka-otherworldly. Ang ganda na.
Xenomorph. Yun.
Lalo na yung mga Harkonnen sa Gedi Prime.
Oo. Yun talaga sobrang, sabi ko, I wanna stay in this world.
Alam mo yung nakakatawa kasi parang pwede mo gawing tawag dito, pwede kang gumawa ng case na yung mga engineer dun sa alien world, sa Prometheus.
Oh my God.
Yung mga Gedi Prime na pala sila eh. Kasi kamukha nila, di ba?
Pero gusto ko talaga yung yung kapag na-expose sila under the black sun, nagbabago yung nila.
Yes. Sige, go.
Parang negative. Na biglang flip yung color ng damit nila.
Gusto ko yung pinaka-best example niyan is yung, di ba, dumating na sila Reverend Mother Helen dun sa Gedi Prime kasi papanoorin nila si Fade. Tas
Doon sa
ano,
birthday gladiator, ano niya.
yung birthday bash niya.
Ah.
Pinakita doon sa loob nung parang, yung likuran nung parang box na kung saan pumasok yung mga Bene Gesserit. Kita mo yung itim, yung tela nung damit nila. Bene Gesserit eh. Diba? Pero nung naglakad na sila doon sa forefront, dahan-dahang nagiging white. Yung damit nung nung everybody involved.
Parang nag-negatives, no? Ang galing.
Ang ganda niya kasi kahit yung design language niya, yung ganong intentional use of color and light furthers the story eh. Kasi
And sound, ha?
of course.
Do not forget na
of course.
every planet or every group or faction or family or kingdom,
Oo.
iba yung
Iba
sound.
yung sound nila.
Iba yung music na piniplay. So talagang ma-feel mo na, okay, we're in a different world now.
Yan, true. Yung sobrang, sabi natin basic siya, na parang film 101 na show white-clothed individuals as good, black-clothed individuals as bad. Pero yung ganun na, the Bene Gesserit black, alam mong nefarious na sila. Tapos coming into the light of the black sun, bigla sila magiging white. Na yung mga ganung non-verbal script flourishes. Sobrang nakakakilig. Makita.
Parang it trusts the audience to interpret that
Yan, exactly.
however they feel like, di ba?
That is very true. Yun yung beauty ng gawa ni Villeneuve na hindi niya ginagawang bobo yung audience niya.
Grabe.
Talaga.
We have been talking about this for an hour, pero parang ang dami pa nating di napag-usapan, no?
I know. Oo nga no. Tama. Parang, hindi pa nga natin napag-usapan yung final quote-unquote battle. Yung mala Helm's Deep na sugod nilang lahat na Fremen.
Oh, and by the way, yung parang last duel, ano daw yun? Filipino martial arts.
Ay, ano nga ba yung
Kali.
Kali?
Oo. Filipino yung nag-train sa kanila kay Austin Butler tsaka kay Timothy.
Kali. Arnis.
Yung parang knife fight.
Arnis.
Kasi any weapon daw can be used. Not just knives. Pwede ring sticks, pwede ring swords, whatever.
Bakit naman Kali yung tinawag nila? Arnis yung tawag doon. Eskrima.
Oo
Yun.
nga, no?
Diba? Yun.
Baka yun yung Hollywood term.
Wow, Kali.
California.
Pwede namang Arnis.
Arnis? Wow.
Eskrima.
Scrima.
Eskrima. Pero yun, proud to be Pinoy moment.
Wow.
Yay.
Ibagay mo yung bandila.
Kahit 2 minutes lang dun sa laban na yun.
Wow, okay.
Arnis.
Whew.
Anyway, I mean, tama ka. We have, I think, covered all that we want to talk about or can talk about without giving out the full movie kasi
We haven't. Believe us.
We still want you to experience this in all its glory. Pero is there anything else na wala dun sa sa notes mo na gusto mo pang idagdag talaga?
Well, very complicated na kasi pero yung politics niya. Siguro mas siya, especially yung part with Florence Pugh. Napaka-complicated the web of of collusions and conspiracies when it involves the Bene Gesserit and yung parang second Bene Gesserit ni Jessica.
Oo.
So, yon, meron ding political struggle in terms of yung religion nga.
True. At saka meron pa ditong mga meron pa tayo ditong mga surprises na hindi nire-reveal.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, watch out for that.
Ano pa ba? Sa akin, final thoughts. Just go see it. It's a near perfect movie. Talaga. I mean, of course, meron kang mga mapipintas dito here and there. Some would be, warranted. Yung iba siguro a matter of preference na lang sa kada isang manonood nito. Pero this is why film was created in the first place. Yung medium of cinema na it's meant to transport you. It's meant to evoke a sense of scale na we don't see in real life. It's meant to bring you to worlds beyond your imagination. And wherever you see this na sinihan, please don't watch this na streaming or in your phone. For the love of God, please.
You can watch Dune 1 on
Dune
Netflix.
1 on Netflix para habulin. Pero itong part 2, kahit whatever cinema fits your budget, please see this in the cinema. Kasi talagang the sense of scale, the wonder, the awe na mai-impart ng sine to to you as the audience member will be more than worth whatever price of admission you're going to, shell out. If you are fortunate to have enough extra, we highly, highly, highly recommend you springing for an IMAX ticket. Kasi talagang sa IMAX, this movie was meant to be seen in IMAX. Talaga. Yung
Agree.
Parang nagmumultiply by 100 yung sense of scale niya dahil lang nasa IMAX siya. Yun. Kasi na pinanood ko recently yung Dune 1 dito sa atin, yung Blu-ray na sa TV. Oo, nakaka-excite pa siya panoorin, pero iba yung aspect ratio, ang laking bagay ng aspect ratio dun sa kapag ini-evoke, nagtatry na mag-evoke ng yung grand sense of scale niya, na pag sa IMAX, yung punong-puno yung screen, talagang you're in another world, talaga. If there was a movie that represented yung slogan ni IMAX na watch a movie or be part of one,
ito yun.
ito yun. Talaga. Oh, talaga.
Yeah, I agree.
Super. Please.
Don't miss it in IMAX.
In IMAX. Talaga. Or
very much worth it.
Or if you can't go to IMAX, find a theater na has the best sound. Atmos. Mag-Dolby Atmos kayo. Yan.
One of the best cinemas we can recommend is Power Plant.
Yes, Rockwell Power. Lahat ng sinyan is Atmos, no?
Yes.
Sa Power Plant.
Power Plant.
Ano pa bang magandang Atmos? Gateway. Cinema 5. Yung kung saan tayo nanonood ng Gumburza. Yun. Or if you want to choose, I guess, yung parang sense of scale, yung malaki yung sinihan, the best one we've seen or we've gone to is yung sa Ayala Malls, Manila Bay. Yun. Yung parang A-Lux nilang malaki. Basta, if you can
see it in the biggest screen you can find.
And with the best sound possible. So, for Dune, anong ating dito? Letter grade?
A+.
A+.
Yeah.
Madaling A+ yan. Yeah.
And it's becoming one of the highest rated movies on IMDb.
And on Letterboxd.
Oh, yeah.
So, ano na siya?
It's
4.5?
up there. Wow.
At 9.1 na siya sa IMDb.
Oh.
Actually, for a brief time nga, parang siya yung naging number 1 dun sa 250 ng IMDb.
Yeah, as of record time.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I guess that's it for Dune Part 2. If you've seen Dune Part 2, please share with us what you thought about it. Comment it on our social media accounts or down below on our Spotify episode page.
And don't forget again to set your players to automatically download our new episodes so you don't miss out on our fun Cinegi conversations. And while you're at it, please give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you had fun or if you learned something new during this episode.
Yes. For my co-host Troy, this has been Angela. Thank you for listening to the Cine Geeks podcast, where movies, TV, and all things geek collide.